from the Herbal Blessing Clinic. And Alhamdulillah, I'm so really excited, incredibly excited, Alhamdulillah, to be given this platform with Ramadan FM. For the next 3 or 4 weeks until the end of Ramadan, I'll be here every Tuesday, and we'll be kind of touching base and exploring some of these beautiful ways of reconnecting to our inner healers, reconnecting to the way of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that is our intention, and that is what we're going to try to be doing for the next couple of weeks, inshallah. But bismillah, before I begin and before I kind of try and introduce myself a bit more and introduce the show, I really want to begin with the Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim and begin with that intention. So Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahmanir Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. What better way to begin a show about healing with the 7 ayahs of Shifa al-Fatiha. There's so much Shifa in those ayahs. So much that we don't know, so much that we forget, and we just kind of say them so quickly without knowing and without realizing the depth of shifa that Allah has given us in those ayahs. But yes, as I was saying before, the beautiful Al-Fatiha, I'm Rabia Mali with the Herbal Blessing Clinic. I'm a medical herbalist and a hijama therapist, and this is something I've been doing for the past 10 years. Each time I say 10 years, I just realize how long I've been doing this, and it makes me feel really old. But no, yes, 10 years I've been practicing herbal medicine and hijama. And one of the things that really hold really close to my heart is to actually use this knowledge and use this experience and use this opportunity and this path of healing to really serve the community. One of the things I've definitely noticed in the past couple of years is that herbal medicine and alternative therapies is quite trendy, which means, which is great, I'm really happy about that, but one of the things it does mean is that it can turn out being really expensive. And so the original way of connecting to nature and connecting to herbs and the prophetic way is beginning to become quite expensive for people, which I don't think is really fair, and I don't think is really the correct way. So inshallah, today's show, I think the best way we can begin with this healing show is to speak about fasting. We are in this beautiful month of Ramadan. I pray that everybody's fast, that Allah has given you the strength to complete the fast, and that you're benefiting from the lights and the nur and the mercy and just the beauty of the fast. And if you're still struggling, if you're finding these first couple of days a bit of a struggle, may Allah give you strength. May Allah give you strength to be able to see the rest of the days, inshallah. And trust me, and I think everybody knows that with the difficulty comes ease. With difficulty surely does come ease. So yes, today's show we're going to be looking at fasting, the benefits of fasting, the medicinal benefits of fasting, the healing benefits of fasting. But also we cannot speak about fasting without speaking about food. And I think this is such an important thing for us to have this discussion about, because one of the first ways of healing is food. That's one of the ways that we are constantly in contact with food. It's such a communal thing, it's such a group thing, and it's one of the ways that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam would recommend for us to get a lot of our shifa. And there's so many different ways of recommendations from our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam when it comes to the way that we should eat, our intentions of eating, the foods that we combine, how we should eat, where we should eat. And I feel like some of this we are very much in sync with, but I feel like it's always a beautiful thing to remind ourselves, especially in this month of Ramadan. And what we would also do, inshallah, is to speak a little bit about veganism. Okay, how did we go from fasting to food to veganism? One of the things that is quite close to our hearts, my heart particularly at this very moment in time, is the food industry, and whether we speak very much about everything being halal and the importance of being halal, and everybody's like, you walk into a shop and everybody's reading the ingredients, is it halal? But very often we forget about the aspect of it being tayyib, about it being good. And one of the reactions to a lot of Muslims when it comes to the meat industry and whether the meat industry, yes, it might tick the halal box, but does it tick the tayyib box? And it's for that reason that so many different Muslims are becoming more vegan. And inshallah, I'm really hoping that we're going to be joined by one of our guests, Tanha, who is a vegan, and we'll have a bit of a conversation with her about her journey with veganism as a Muslim. And inshallah, a little bit about how we can make our Ramadan as holistic as possible. Because there's no, in our understanding of Islam and in our understanding of Ramadan, fasting, abstaining from food and drink, it's only kind of like part of the story. So I think it's really important that we kind of try our best to benefit the most from Ramadan, is to try and approach it in a very holistic way. And of course, that's the spiritual aspects, but I think very much so, I think it's very important to look at some of the physical aspects when it comes to our food particularly, and that's what we're going to be kind of focusing on a little bit today. You're more than welcome to join in with the conversation. In fact, I invite you and I embrace you to join into the conversation. If there's any questions, if there's any other comments, I'm more than happy to hear from you. So Bismillah ar-Rahim, join in with the Facebook conversation. There's also a studio number. Please do try and phone in. I'm playing radio mic person today, so I'll try and get you onto the mic as well, inshallah. But please do join in, even if it means after the show. I'm really excited to hear from everybody, and I know that so many of us have so much to share. Everybody's sitting on an experience or a knowledge, and inshallah, this is only part of it. So Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The fasting, alhamdulillah, one of the beautiful things I love about our Ramadan fast, or our Islamic fast, because fasting is something that has been, it's one of the oldest forms of medicine. We can see that almost every single religion will ask its followers to fast, okay? And every single fast differs, whether it's similar to the Islamic fast, but you have within Christianity, although that's changed throughout the years, but there was such a really good fast within Christianity where once a month they were once in a month they were instructed to fast, and now we kind of see that in the form of Lent, which is kind of moved from a fasting of food and water, and it's moved into a kind of a fast of, abstaining from something that maybe you want to give up and things like that. But then also within Hinduism, there's a really strong tradition of fasting, and the same in Buddhism. And of course, we know in Judaism, there's a big tradition of fasting. And even if we look in a lot of the sometimes indigenous religions, you'll find that there is a tradition of fasting. There is the tradition of preparing the body for particular ceremonies, preparing the body for initiations. One way of doing that was to fast, to remove food, and very, very often to remove water from the diet, from the stomach. And the intentions behind this, and we can see this within all religions as well, was that by removing food and water is a way of nourishing the physical body. It's a way of nourishing, the physical body. So by removing that from us, we start to nourish more of the spirituality. We start to kind of raise our consciousness. And we know this because in the Quran, when we are asked, when it says in the Quran and when it mentions about fasting, it's said to fast to raise your awareness of Allah. So inshallah, may our fasting be a way of raising our awareness and raising our God consciousness, inshallah. May we not just get thirst and hunger from the fast, but maybe get this consciousness with our divine, with our Lord. So that's one aspect of it, and I always get really excited when I sit with my fellow Jewish, Christian, Hindu, Buddhist, Muslim brothers and Muslim brothers and sisters, and we have that thing in common, and we can relate to the benefits of that, because sometimes you can have a conversation with somebody about fasting, and it's very much like, why are you starving yourself? What is the benefit of starving yourself? And it's sometimes really hard to explain to people. But recently, science is catching up. This is what I always say whenever I do sessions, workshops. I always say one of the things which is really entertaining to me is the way that science is catching up, and the way that now we can use science to justify so much of the prophetic tradition, of a lot of kind of traditional approaches when it comes to medicine and traditional approaches when it comes to health. And science is now catching up to, and they've named it intermittent fasting. And I'm sure so many of us have heard about this new way of dieting. I think a new way of lifestyle is intermittent fasting. There's been a huge amount of research, and I'm saying huge because it's overwhelming. Just have a quick Google search on intermittent fasting and you'll find that there is a lot of scientific research and scientific studies that have been done on this way of fasting. And intermittent fasting, to kind of make it really, to cut the long story short, is basically having controlled windows of eating and having controlled windows of not eating, which basically is fasting. So intermittent fasting is basically what every single month in the month of Ramadan that we are doing. And what I find beautiful about this is one of their methods and one of the ways that they recommend and one of the diets or one of the lifestyles that has become particularly popular in this country is an intermittent fast called 5-2. Okay, and 5-2 is basically 5 days of the week you eat whatever you want, you don't fast, you eat what you have to eat, and 2 days of the week you do a calorie control kind of restrictive fast, so you restrict your calories to about 500 to 600 calories. And although this sounds really kind of out there, when we sit and we look at what they found with this, we find that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam would recommend for us to fast 2 days of the week, particularly 2 days of the week, the Mondays and the Thursdays of the week. And already there, that is us doing an intermittent fast. And what they're finding, which I find beautiful, is that fasting is one of the most effective ways of cleansing and healing the body. And this is something that a Nobel Peace Prize was won with the study of intermittent fasting, particularly when it comes to blood sugar levels. But what they also found, and I don't want to go too much into science because I am a bit of a science geek. You can't help but be a science geek when you go into herbal medicine and when you go into healing, because it's so subhanallah, like you're in such a state of awe. But what they're finding is that there's a new process of where the body begins to almost eat itself. They call it autophagy. And it's a process where whenever there's any damage in the cells, any parts of the cells that's damaged, what happens is that this process of autophagy begins and it begins to heal the cells, right? So it goes into a process of constantly starting to heal the cells. And what they're finding is that one of the ways of triggering or making autophagy begin is via fasting. Okay, once you fast and your insulin levels drop and your different levels start to kind of move up and down, it begins to initiate this amazing process called autophagy, which basically goes around and it mops up any of the kind of damaged, old, a bit tired cells and replaces them with newly repaired, ready to go cells. So with this in mind, what they're finding is that fasting can be applied to so many different illnesses, particularly when it comes to inflammation. It can help to increase anti-inflammatory kind of mediators, anti-inflammatory cells. That does the kind of action there, so it helps that. And it can also be particularly good when it comes to so that would be really good for arthritis, osteo and rheumatoid arthritis. And what they're particularly finding as well is that it's very good for cognitive function, which is quite surprising and quite shocking for some of us who find that the fast can have the total opposite. And the fast can be that fast where we call it the fasting brain. And I've called it so many times. Oh gosh, I've got fasting brain. Which is basically, I'm not thinking, I can't think straight, I don't know what's really happening. But what science is actually saying is that fasting can actually increase cognitive function and increase your ability to concentrate. It can increase your ability to learn new things. It really helps when it comes to creating neural pathways. Fasting, they found, increases the neural stem cells and the way that those neural stem cells kind of create and turn into different neurons and nerve cells. And that what they're finding is that when people are fasting, and they did this study particularly but it wasn't really a study, it was more so to do with prisoners of war. And when I read this, I found this incredibly fascinating, what they found with prisoners of war, whose food intake and water intake was drastically decreased. And that's not out of choice. But what they did find is that a lot of these prisoners of war were able to learn new things incredibly quickly. They were able to learn languages incredibly quickly. They were able to learn new skills incredibly quickly. And what they attributed that to was the fact that they were fasting. So for all of us that are studying during this blessed month, it's actually, I was saying this to my nephew who's doing his GCSEs at the moment, and to all those that are doing their GCSEs, may Allah give you the strength to continue through this month. But I was saying to him that in reality, the actual fast puts you in it might put you in a little bit of an advantage over the other students that aren't fasting, because your concentration, especially if it's in the morning, a morning exam, your concentration is peaked and it's higher, and the fasting actually encourages that concentration. Number two, a lot of the blood flow and energy that will be diverted into the stomach to kind of do all the digestion of your breakfast and everything else that you've eaten. Instead, it can very happily be diverted to your brain, which is the most important place where you need it during your exams. So alhamdulillah, I always recommend for people, if they're able to, during the month of Ramadan and you're doing your exams, that if you can, do fast, because it actually, there's the spiritual benefit to it, there's the spiritual benefit that you're getting, but then also science now is backing us up and saying, actually, you know what, fasting actually can be quite good for your memory. They're also saying that fasting is incredibly good for those that it reduces the risk of Alzheimer's. I mean, I can make a whole entire list about the different benefits of fasting, because there's so many, and particularly weight loss. Everybody wants to know how to lose weight, and we know that weight loss is particularly good for fasting. But these are just all these scientific ways of the fast, and I think that that's only one part of the benefit. And I think I always say this, is that when you're fasting, what becomes even more important while your body's going through this rest, I mean, siyam is the term for rest. So when your body's going through this rest, what becomes even more important is what you actually put into your body. And I feel like that's the part that I really want to focus on a little bit more today, is focusing on, when we do break our fast, what is it that we're eating? What is it that we're putting into our bodies? What is it that we're using to heal our bodies and break that fast? After 19 hours of being in a state of rest, of allowing our body to rest, allowing our body to be in the state of rejuvenation and healing, what is it that we're actually putting into our body? So inshallah, we're going to go on a really, really quick break. And inshallah, when we get back, we'll have a quick conversation about some of the foods I would really recommend for you to introduce into your diet to open your fast, but then also to break your fast. And inshallah, to see what kind of foods we can introduce that will have a healing effect, and maybe even some herbs as well. So inshallah, join us after the break and we will continue this conversation. Assalamu alaikum.
Or letting your home? With Maxwell Estates, you don't need to look any further. Well established with over 15 years of experience, Maxwell Estates are specialists in residential sales and lettings. We manage over 200 properties in and around Northwest London, keeping our landlords and tenants updated with all the latest laws and legislations. Based in Edgware, our experienced specialist negotiators always ensure we maximise the full potential of your property. Call us now on 0208 952 0808 for a free no obligation quotation, or visit our website www.maxwellestates.co.uk for further information. Maxwell Estates, the name you can trust.
Do what we do best.
Grab your taste of luxury at Pink's Boutique. Designer brands like Hugo Boss and Armani to keep your style in check. Catering for ladies, men, and kids, Pink's Boutique has it all under one roof. And we offer shipping worldwide. So get the look to fit your attitude. Visit us on our website at pinksboutique.co.uk. Remember, that's pnksboutique.co.uk. Or pop into our store at 302 Brentwood Road, Romford, RM2 5TA.
Ramadan FM 2018.
The voice of British Muslims.
European University of Business now offering BA Business Management, MBA with specialisation. Our courses are regulated by UK Quality Assurance Agency and taught in a highly professional environment. Special offer for Ramadan FM 2018 listeners only. Please call on 0203 288 3143. Email info@universityofbusiness.eu.
Solicitors in. You can expect a variety of services from us, ranging from family law, immigration, human rights, money claims, personal injury, and many more. We are committed to providing you with the best legal advice suited to your individual circumstances. Drop us a call on 0203 500 8000. Our office is located at 62 Barking Road, East Ham, E6 3BP.
Why spend summer in your room when you can fly off to your dream destination with facilities like car hire and hotel bookings? Well, Flight Masters have got you covered. We offer holiday packages, city breaks, and flights at the most reasonable prices with the best provision of services. So why delay? Call us today on 0203 598 9938 or visit our website at www.flightmasters.com.
Do you dream of travelling to those blessed lands where the beloved of Allah was born? Does your heart yearn for Medina?
So, assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome back. I'm Rabia Mali, and we are on Healing Vibes on Ramadan FM 2018. And we are just talking about fasting and talking about food. We've had a beautiful kind of introduction to the healing, the medicinal and scientific, dare I say it, that we're using science now to justify the healing benefits of fasting. But more importantly, and like I said before the break, now we have to really look at what we're eating, because when we're fasting, we're limited with the amount of food that we're actually having. And I think it's really important to kind of control and kind of pay a bit more attention to what we're actually eating. So some of the advice that I would have as a herbalist is, particularly in the morning, one of the things which, subhanAllah, is a sunnah, and look at the sunnah and look at the beauty of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, are dates. Right? And dates are one of the best things to have in the morning. In fact, I personally, depending on kind of what's happening within my fast, is enough to actually have, 5 or 7 dates and water, and that is enough to actually carry you throughout the entire day. There's enough sugar, there's enough energy in that for you to be carried throughout the entire day. I'm not recommending for everybody to do that, but this is just showing you the benefit of the dates. And the dates have a huge amount of fiber, and they release sugar really slowly. So what we tend to really want to recommend in the morning is to have high fat, natural fat, not kind of like don't go in and have a burrito or something like that. High natural fat, high protein, and high fiber. Particularly because when we're fasting, we get dehydrated and we can get more prone to constipation. So I definitely recommend things like that. So baked beans on toast for those that don't really kind of really quick and easy thing in the morning. Some oats with some apples. Make yourself a really nice oat porridge. Grate some apples on there. Put a few seeds, particular walnuts and pumpkin seeds, because they're really, really high in omega oils, which are really good for inflammation as well. And I would really recommend making sure you drink tea. Water, of course, but also tea. And one of the teas I always like to recommend in the morning, it's actually, I think one of my favorite teas, would be like a nice peppermint tea, a nice peppermint and chamomile tea, particularly if you're somebody who gets prone to bloating throughout your fast. Get some nice peppermint or chamomile tea and mix that together, maybe a little bit of fenugreek as well, and introduce that into your diet. More importantly is the breaking of the fast, and we are so blessed. I'm so blessed to be joined by Tanha, who is, as I mentioned before, one of the things that we are, that I like to focus on, like I said, is the breaking of the fast. And one of the things that, for whatever reason, I mean, I'm actually intrigued as to why it becomes more popular in Ramadan, is one of the things that we tend to do a lot in Ramadan is our meat intake increases like tenfold. And this is one of my biggest battles in clinic, is to try and kind of move us away. As a Muslim community, it turns into a very Islamic community, maybe because of all the different cultures that are mixed into that community. But one of the things we really want to do is move us away from a meat-centered diet and move us back to the way of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, whose diet was not meat-focused at all. Yes, there was meat there, but definitely not meat-focused. One of the things that meat does do when we break our fast is that what it does is that it takes a huge amount of energy to digest. So what I tend to recommend is have it in soups like the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ did. But I want to hear more from Tanha and her journey as a vegan Muslim, and the different reasons why she's chosen to become a vegan Muslim. And then what we'll do, we'll have a conversation with Tanha, and then maybe we'll touch back with some of the things that we can do to break our fast. So assalamu alaikum, Tanha.
Wa alaikum salam.
How are you?
I'm okay.
Good, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. How's your Ramadan so far?
It's gone good. I started off with really good vibes, and they're following through. Like, I haven't dipped yet, so alhamdulillah.
Good, alhamdulillah. May Allah continue to give you the strength and the shifa, because like, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Like, I just think about last year when we were in summer, a bit more of summer and the heat, and this year it's been such a blessing. But Tanha, I'm really, really excited and interested. I'm always in a state of excitement, and I don't even understand why. I'm just like, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, I'm excited. But particularly I'm really intrigued to have this conversation, because obviously, like we were saying, veganism is something that's been a huge increase and a lot more popularity in mainstream, but also within the Muslim community. And I really want to kind of hear a little bit about your reasons. And how long have you been vegan, actually?
It's been a long process, sort of. So it didn't happen overnight. It wasn't like something suddenly clicked. So I slowly started to take out, before I even started taking out, I turned to sort of organic and free range meats. And that was a few years. And after that, I just started to take out meat, chicken, fish. Took some time just because I'm Bengali and I love fish. And dairy and cheeses. Cheese was hard, but it happened gradually, and I let my body adapt, because you become reliant on certain things, especially like cheese. I didn't realize how much I craved it, like cheesy things, not even just the block, but like cheesy flavored things. So it's just giving your body that time to yearn off certain things that aren't necessary to your diet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how long did it take you to kind of
I've been
yourself off, so to put it?
Completely fully dairy-free and meat-free for about a year and a half.
A year and a half?
Yeah.
And now you're complete kind of plant-based?
Yeah.
And how is
the only exception I would say to that is when I'm invited somewhere and I'm offered food. And that's the only exception I make, just because I can't be rude to my host.
Okay.
So that's the only time I've slipped up, and I don't feel guilty about it. Just because, like, my mum will give me the eye, like, what is this? I try to force feed you this stuff all the time. Like, Mum, I just can't be rude.
Yes.
Because it's not like they've made something alternative unless they know me personally. So that's the only time.
And that's a beautiful, I mean, that's a beautiful, because that's prophetic. That's the way of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, is when people offer you food. Not to refuse, you know, not to be actually, you know. But does that reflect the reasons as to why you decided to go plant-based?
I think it was accumulation of realizing just how the industry in this country works. Because I don't think prophetically we can eat meat and we can have dairy, and he had milk and he had meats, but it's just when you realize the industry that we are in, the industry in the West is so disconnected to the process. We're so disconnected to farming, to slaughtering, and then coming to the plate. Like, it's just, I couldn't make that connection. And when you see the brutality, it's like, you are what you eat really sets in. Like, it affects you and your soul. And I remember listening to a talk by Hamza Yusuf, and he was talking about how if the animal suffers, you're eating that suffering.
Yes.
And you shouldn't think that it's not affecting your soul and your behavior and how you are with people. Like, it's all interlinked. So to be so far away and not think that you're still affected, it takes time to sort of link the dots together. Yeah.
So would you say, I mean, that kind of sounds like it's obviously an ethical reason, but then also you've mentioned about what Sheikh Hamza Yusuf said, so also it's kind of a little bit of a spiritual reason. And we know that what we eat definitely, and this is the beauty of Ramadan, what we eat definitely affects our spirituality. And the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ saying that all illnesses come from the stomach. And so what we put in is going to affect our physical health, but then of course, like you said, our spiritual health. Is that something that you've noticed in the past year and a half of being vegan?
I would say I've noticed people's behaviors a lot more. Like, people in this country, and it's a huge generalization, but are quite ravenous over meat consumption. In the nicest way possible. When, like, they don't think that it was an animal that you're eating. They just think of the flavor and the taste. But it's like, I don't know if it's coming across the right way. Like, people eat so much, but they don't realize what they're eating. They're not conscious of the fact that you are eating an animal, and it's okay. But how much of it are you eating? And it just seems disproportionate.
I think what you actually said, I don't feel like anybody could disagree. Perhaps they could, I don't know. If anybody has any comments, please do comment or call in. But I don't think anybody could really disagree with your reasons for being a vegan. But have you had any, let's say, misunderstandings or any questions regarding being a vegan and Muslim, or from Muslims?
I think
from the Muslim community.
I think I don't really like the term vegan. Just because it seems to denote that you have a certain lifestyle, you believe that you can't have it at all. When I don't believe that. I mean, if I had my own farm, if I reared my own animals, if I took the milk from those animals, like if I knew that it was ethically sourced, and I know there are places in the UK that do that, but it's just, it denotes a certain type of person. But in terms of sort of hostilities, maybe, I would say my mom. Of all people in the world, she loves me so much, and I think sometimes she feels bad for eating certain things, or me refusing certain things, or if I go somewhere and I want to buy something, but then I question the people, like, oh, what's in it? And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll put it back. And she just feels so bad, and she's like, just eat it for today, I'll make dal for you, it's fine. So I think it's just, at first there was a lot of misunderstandings. And sort of the younger people in my family, they didn't really understand. I think people think you're extreme. And oh, I have had that. People think I'm extreme. But yeah, and then they sort of shut off. And then there's other people that are like, wow, mashallah, I wish I could do that too, but I just love chicken. So
it's the chicken that gets people, isn't it? Yeah, the chicken.
But it makes you so much more creative.
Have you? That's something you've noticed?
Oh my gosh, I've tried so many different things, and it's not even about like trying to emulate different flavors that you used to like. It's about trying different vegetables and different combinations that you just haven't tried before. Like, I love kimchi now. And I make so many different types of kimchi. And it's something that I probably wouldn't have even gone next to if I hadn't gone through this journey.
So kimchi, for those that aren't familiar with it, is
Fermented.
um, cabbage, carrots,
Anything, fermented anything.
Vegetables,
Like
right?
my favorite kimchi is fermented radish and leeks.
Okay.
Oh, it's so good.
And it has kind of like or it depends on how you make it, but they can be quite
really,
spicy.
Yeah, it really depends on how you make it. It's close to sauerkraut, but
Yes.
kimchi is a bit more spicy.
And it's more, I believe it's Korean. It has
Yeah.
more of a Korean.
I think the only thing that makes it Korean is the red pepper powder that they use.
Okay.
But I use just the normal bog standard Asian chili powder on my
So you
own.
make kind of like a Bengali.
I make a
kimchi.
Bengali kimchi. Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. I just really want to take it back to a little bit what you were saying. And this will tie in really well with Ramadan, because obviously, like I was saying, Ramadan is where the meat and the chicken and the beef and the turkey, any form of meat like comes out in Ramadan. And one of the things this is one of the battles that I have, like I said, with a lot of my patients, but particularly when it comes to Ramadan, because it becomes habit and becomes culture and becomes like, but this is what we do, is the effect that meat has on, like we said, about your spirituality. And one of the things that we believe and we understand within traditional medicine, particularly the prophetic tradition, is all different foods have a different quality. Like we have hot, cold, dry, moist, etc. And one of the things about meat that's very individual or very specific about meat is that we can begin to take on the characteristics of that animal. So particularly I was saying at the workshop that I did this weekend, is that beef, I don't think we're really a nation of beef. I don't know. I'm not a beef person, but beef particularly, for those that eat too much beef, you begin to take on the characteristics of being very lethargic, very docile, very heavy in movement. And it's a very similar thing when it comes to, for example, pig. And what you were saying, like one of the things you've noticed is how there's a lot of like gluttony, there's a lot of ravishness, there's a lot of like greed almost. And alhamdulillah, one of the things that we are forbidden to eat is pig for so many different reasons. And as a characteristic, I'm very grateful that we're not eating it. But perhaps that's something that we're seeing in the wider community is our I would say the consumerism regarding food, where it's not about need anymore, it's about desiring. And one of the things particularly with meat is that. One of the things also you mentioned is the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and his relationship with meat. And I think one of the things that I think is quite nice about the way that you're practicing veganism is it's not extreme at all. Like you said, you're not opposed to eating. For you, it's about it being ethical rather than, you don't, because one of the things I hear a lot from patients or people that are vegan is that they honestly believe that the body is not, and everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but the body's not designed to digest dairy. And the body's not designed to digest and process meat, how do you feel about that?
I think it really depends on what system the food that you eat goes under. So milk, if it's been pasteurized and it's gone through a process of just taking out all the goodness, then I don't think the body is gonna, of course it's gonna reject, just because the body is used to what it should be having. So sort of unrefined, unpasteurized milk, I think it's still fine for the body. I think the body needs those certain things, because otherwise the Prophet wouldn't have it. I think we agree. But yeah, 100%. I think I remember when I went through a meat-free stage, and that was more to do with like very much similar to you, where it's ethical. Like I think I saw a documentary. It was many ones horrible. That just,
it was really
the heartstrings.
It was a lot to do with, and then I realized I did a lot of reading when it comes to what they're pumping the animals with, and the different antibiotics and the different like phytoestrogens, and it just really
all goes inside
and
of us.
we're ingesting it. And this is this is a different conversation, and hopefully maybe next week we'll have a bit more about hormones and the effect that it's having on us. But that's one of the things that is contributing largely to a lot of our hormonal imbalances. But one of the things I read was that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ would say, if anybody doesn't eat meat, So if you're eating meat 40 days consistently, your heart makes your heart very hard, right? It makes the heart very hard. But then on the other hand, if you don't eat meat in 40 days, then it makes you very weak and it doesn't nourish the body. So it makes the person very weak and very fragile. And for me, that just sums up completely how our approach to food should be. That balance of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is saying, yes, have meat. There's joy in meat. In actual fact, he said, having meat makes the heart rejoice. And I'm like, for so many of us, it does. This is so true. Yeah. But it's also the idea of do not be gluttonous in it because of the damaging effects, which I think is really, really, really interesting to have. So inshallah, what we're going to do, we're going to go on a quick break, inshallah, and then when we get back, one of the things that Tanha is also involved in, which again I find not just exciting but I actually find incredibly important, is, you know, we mentioned at the beginning about having a holistic Ramadan, and one of the things that we can do to make sure that when we are in this month that we are nourishing our connection to Allah, we are nourishing our health, but then we are also nourishing those around us as a community, but then also as an environment, and that we're not doing things that are kind of damaging or destructive to ourselves and to the environment. So inshallah, when we get back, we'll continue the conversation. Assalamu alaikum.
Taste of luxury at Pink's Boutique. Designer brands like Hugo Boss and Armani to keep your style in check. Catering for ladies, men and kids, Pink's Boutique has it all under one roof. And we offer shipping worldwide. So get the look to fit your attitude. Visit us on our website at pinksboutique.co.uk. Remember, that's pnksboutique.co.uk. Or pop into our store at 302 Brentwood Road, Romford, RM2 5TA.
Ramadan FM 2018.
The voice of British Muslims.
European University of Business now offering BA Business Management, MBA with specialisation. Our courses are regulated by UK Quality Assurance Agency and taught in a highly professional environment. Special offer for Ramadan FM 2018 listeners only. Please call on 0203 288 3143. Email info@universityofbusiness.eu.
Solicitors in. You can expect a variety of services from us, ranging from family law, immigration, human rights, money claims, personal injury and many more. We are committed to providing you with the best legal advice suited to your individual circumstances. Drop us a call on 0203 500 8000. Our office is located at 62 Barking Road, East Ham, E6 3BP.
Why spend summer in your room when you can fly off to your dream destination with facilities like car hire and hotel bookings? Well, Flight Masters have got you covered. We offer holiday packages, city breaks and flights at the most reasonable prices with the best provision of services. So why delay? Call us today on 0203 598 9938 or visit our website at www.flightmasters.com.
Do you dream of traveling to those blessed lands where the beloved of Allah was born? Does your heart yearn for Medina, the city of the beloved? If it is your time to experience a spiritual journey words cannot justify, then join us at Sam Travel and Tours and book your Hajj and Umrah packages today. We offer group and tailor-made packages for all your requirements. Based on Romford Road in London, for our last 10 days Umrah package, please call us on 0208 478 8911.
Ramadan FM 2018.
The voice of British Muslims.
MR Accountants provide a full range of accountancy and taxation services, including annual and management accounts, self-assessment, tax returns, VAT, bookkeeping and payroll services to all different types of businesses. With our in-house chartered accountants, you can be guaranteed to save money.
Okay, assalamu alaikum. You are listening to Ramadan FM 2018. I'm Rabia Mali, and we are on the Healing Vibe Show every Tuesday between 2 and 3 p.m. We will be exploring healing. I like to use the word healing rather than health because health is so clinical, but we're using healing. We're exploring healing. I'm joined today by Tanha, who
Hello.
just before the break, we were having a conversation about the meat industry, having a conversation about the medicinal and healing and even spiritual impacts of removing or reducing, particularly reducing your meat intake and being a bit more particular about the type of meat that we are eating as well. I just wanted to touch back when we spoke about what we're eating, particularly when it comes to iftar, and some of the what I love about prophetic medicine and what I love about traditional medicine is that everything that is the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this is no surprise, but everything that is part of the sunnah of the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has so much shifa in it. And when we look at the ways that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam ate, what kind of foods he ate, what foods he put together, you know, very rarely. It's funny that we're speaking about veganism, but the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam very rarely would combine fish and dairy. In actual fact, it was something that was not recommended to do, is to mix fish and dairy together in one meal, because it can cause a lot of illness actually. And again, science is now saying that the different proteins in fish and dairy can cause different kind of types of allergic reactions, but that's another story for another time. I always like to recommend, so some of my top tips for iftar would be: number one, make iftar the breaking of the fast. So iftar being, bearing in mind your whole entire body has been at rest for 19 hours. The worst thing we want to do is, as soon as the adhan is called, that we are stuffing our faces, not just our faces, but stuffing our stomachs with so much that the stomach has to go completely into overdrive to start the digestive process. One of the ways, and you'll see this a lot depending on what masjid you go to or what country you're in, that the iftar, the breaking of the fast, tends to just be water and dates. So allow the stomach to kind of start to warm up with the digestive. So break your fast with some water and some dates. If you want to, maybe some milk and dates. If you want to, because milk, although we're speaking about veganism a little bit, there's a lot of shifa in the correct kind of ethically and correct sourced milk, and maybe Tanha can tell us a little bit where she gets her milk from. She doesn't drink milk. Where you would have sources. Yeah, maybe you've got some sources. If you were to drink milk, where you would recommend that to be, whether that's raw milk or farmers markets or something like that. But sometimes it's just easier to take it out of your diet, like you have, Tanha. But maybe some recommendations you mentioned earlier about where you can get some good organic halal meat from. Do you know where you can get that from?
Well, when I was having meat, there was Willowbrook Farm and Abraham Organics.
Yes.
Two places that we used to get it from. And they were.
I've ordered some. I've ordered some bones from Abraham Organics because I want to make a broth. Because one of the things, like I said, ease your stomach into the digestive process. Have a date, have some water. And one of the things I like to recommend people to mix dates with, because dates are quite hot, is to mix it with water or milk or cucumber, or what they would say is the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam would mix it with watermelon.
Really?
Yeah, because watermelon is very cooling, really, really cooling. And you're seeing watermelon everywhere now. Yeah. But my only thing, and this is the thing I have, is watermelon is not seasonal to this country.
But was it seasonal there?
I think yes. You can get watermelon in the deserts, believe it or not. And you can also get cucumber, but you can get cucumber over here. So whenever I rather recommend cucumber
as opposed to watermelon. It's just so delicious.
It is. I mean, I'm not putting a fatwa on watermelon. But one of the things I would say, which is a prophetic way, is to eat seasonally. Is to eat what the land has provided, because Allah gives shifa through the land, and you'll find that whatever seasonal is what your body needs. So I always say, like, okay, let's get dates and some some cucumber. Somebody suggested to me the other day dates and peanut butter, because dates aren't not hugely high in protein, but peanuts are, so you can get a lot of protein.
That sounds like a good combination.
I don't know. Try it. I'm not overly keen on it, but bismillah.
But just raw nuts, maybe.
Yeah, some raw nuts, some nuts, some particularly walnuts. Almonds are really, really good for this time of the year, because what you want to be eating when you're breaking your fast is high fat, high fiber, high protein. High fat, high fiber. And when I say fat, again, like I mentioned before, natural kind of good fats. Avocado is kind of like the hallmark for good fats. And I would say also things like soups. And you'll find this within particularly the Turkish and Arab tradition. Soups are a big thing in Ramadan, because everything is being processed and you're literally just drinking this nutrient-dense liquid, and you can just be like, drink it and it absorbs everything. And then have your meal after. If you've got any space after that, then have your meal. It's beautiful again, because afterwards we go for Tarawih. Many of us go for Tarawih. Male or female will go out for Tarawih, or you pray at home, and this is a beautiful way of also digesting the food. If it's like you have different types of Tarawih. You have the very slow Tarawih, but then you have like the uber fast Tarawih. Either way, the actual movements are a way of digesting the food. So bismillah, that's one of the things I would definitely recommend. My biggest advice would be also to stay away from fried foods and dehydrating foods like garlic, onions, chili. And see, all these things I'm saying, and I'm pretty sure everyone's like, no.
They're dehydrating.
They dehydrate the body. Dehydrate the body. So, and what especially in these long fasts, we don't want to be dehydrated.
But that's like the basis of all Asian cooking.
I've noticed. But within like the subcontinent cooking, there's so much there. There's lentils. Even the way that some of the mixing of, again, this is dairy, but there's a lot of kind of pulses. Even the way that we cook meat can be very good, but it's just, samosas, somebody said, you can just chuck them in the oven instead. Yeah. Or even other things. I mean, I'm not an expert at making Indian food. I'm an expert at eating it. But
to be honest, I think it's eaten best when it's fried. So your best bet is just to refrain from having it all the time and just treat yourself now and again, as opposed to having it every day baked and not have it delicious.
I wouldn't have samosas every day in Ramadan. That's something I'd be like, maybe if you want to have one, or indulge yourself in one day. But the purpose of the fast is obviously it's a spiritual thing, and there's foods that will impact your spirituality. But then also there's a beautiful hadith of one of the best things to ask for is for good health, and you will be questioned about your health. So if there's Allah has given us food to enjoy, but we need to make sure it's nourishing us as well. So everything in moderation. I think that's the story of today. Everything in moderation. So those are a few of the points. One of the things I also noticed, and one of the things we've had the really interesting conversation about in Ramadan, is the amount of food wastage that happens. And I know that Tanha is part of, myself and Tanha are part of an amazing event that's happening this Saturday called the Green Dean Ethical Iftar. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that and some of the... Oh, Friday. Yes, sorry, Friday. I would say I have fasting brain, but I don't. So I have like my concentrations there. But yes, this Friday, 24th in West London. 25th. 25th in West London, Rumi's Cave. We're going to be doing a Green Dean Ethical Iftar. Want to tell us a little bit about that before we go?
I think our main aim is just to be mindful of the food that we're providing, mindful of our waste, and just making it an event where people take something away with them. And that for me is change. Just planting that seed in someone's brain and just letting that simmer. And if that means the rest of their Ramadan is led more mindfully about their food waste, their plastic waste, and just how their behaviors are within Ramadan, just making that click, I think is really beautiful.
That sounds... What sort of things are you asking people to kind of...
So
maybe like top 3 tips to make our
Okay.
Ramadan kind of eco-friendly. And all our Ramadan should be eco-friendly because that's the basis of Islam. But any tips that our listeners can take away?
Okay, so one really nice, simple and easy tip that Rabia suggested earlier in the week was collecting your date seeds. And just making sure you don't throw away your date seeds and maybe the ones of your family, collecting them in a bowl, and maybe at the end of the month either scattering them in your garden, putting them in a plant pot, or going to any green space and just scattering them, because they provide nutrients for the ground. They naturally decompose into the soil and there's no waste.
Yeah.
I think it's beautiful how it can just erode away without any human interference. I mean, it's so natural. Another one is bulk buying.
Okay.
I think bulk buying is so important just because there's some things that you just can't avoid coming in plastic. And it's just easier to buy things that you know you're going to buy a lot. Pasta, legumes. What's the other word for legumes? Pulses.
Pulses, yeah.
Actually,
those are two. Yeah, they're a little bit different, but yeah, doesn't matter.
Okay,
It
so
doesn't matter.
like rice, all these things that we generally buy a lot, but if we just buy in bulk, you're using a lot less plastic. Yeah, and I think just one last tip. I could go on. Is just being mindful when you're buying. Just being mindful of not buying too much, because in Ramadan our eyes get greedy.
Yes.
But our stomachs can't take it. So and supermarkets have this thing where they package things really beautifully, but it's just, if you're buying loosely, you know exactly how much you want, how much you're going to eat.
Yes.
And you're just a lot more careful with what you're buying. Yeah.
I think that helps to reduce food wastage, and I really pray that inshallah, if we can take away any of those tiny little words of advice, inshallah it can help to make our Ramadan a lot more holistic. Thank you so much, Tanha, for joining me. I feel my first show, I feel really like humbled and blessed that you traveled on your bike.
Yeah.
To kind of join us today.
No, I needed the workout. I'm slowly increasing my limits to how far I go.
May Allah give you more strength to be able to kind of travel in this way, especially in London. Join us. Thank you so much for those that have joined us. Inshallah, please do join us next week. Same time, same place. Inshallah, we'll be again exploring different aspects of healing. Inshallah, next week we'll be having a special session on healing of the womb. So particularly for anybody who is interested in using natural ways of benefiting our womb and benefiting our menstrual cycles and things like that, please do tune in. We'll be joined by a Mizan therapist who will be speaking to us a little bit about that. So inshallah, keep us in your du'as. We are going to end with a special du'a. Ya Allah, please give us shifa in this holy month of Ramadan. Put the love of Quran in our hearts and the shifa of the Quran in our hearts. And let us be grateful, Ya Allah, for everything that you have given us and everything that you have not, Ya Allah, Rabbul Alameen. Assalamu alaikum, and inshallah we will see you next week. Assalamu alaikum.